Okay, so it's Saturday morning. We decided to make French toast. You get everything ready, you get your egg mixture together, you get your bread together, you're super excited for this awesome breakfast you're gonna surprise everybody with. You crank that heat up to high, you put the stuff in the pan, and then you set the smoke alarm off and you wake everybody in the house up. Nobody wants to wake up that way on a Saturday morning. This is the number one reason why I do not make French toast in my class, because everybody wants to crank the heat up to high and cook things super, super fast. French toast works a lot better low and slow. So in this video, we're gonna show you some tricks to making sure it works foolproof every time, knowing when to flip it, knowing what to do, and getting an entire loaf of bread's worth of French toast out without burning a single piece and without setting off your smoke alarm, because nobody wants to hear that on a Saturday morning.
We're also going to be making this absolutely irresistible vanilla butter rum sauce with a heavy cream in it. It's the perfect addition for any Sunday brunch. So the ingredients for your French toast are going to be a loaf of cinnamon raisin bread. You can use whatever bread that you'd like to, but the cinnamon raisin just adds a little bit of extra to it. 4 eggs, a half a cup of milk. Whole milk is going to be best. A 1/4 cup of sugar. This is optional, but it adds a little bit of extra flavor to it. A tablespoon of good vanilla. I like to use vanilla bean paste. And then some softened butter for greasing pan. I don't usually like to use spray for this because that ends up leaving a little bit of a residue. So to start out with, you're going to mix your milk, your sugar, and your vanilla. If you're making this with regular bread and not cinnamon raisin bread, you can put some cinnamon in here as well. But by mixing this before you add your egg in, this is going to help you out a whole lot, because this is going to let the vanilla and the sugar fully incorporate before you add your eggs, because the eggs are a lot harder to mix. So this is an important step to making sure that everything is a little bit easier to mix in the end. After that, you're just going to crack those eggs into the mixture. Notice we are mixing this into a flat bowl, and these are like Corelle bowls that are a little bit flatter, but a pie plate works for this really well as well. It just means that we don't have to use 2 bowls, because this is what we're going to be dipping the bread into later. If this is not mixed really well, it's not going to soak into the bread evenly, and you're going to have those like gloppy clear parts that are kind of dragging off the bread. So you definitely want to make sure you get this mixed as evenly as possible and get it to where you don't see any of the whites or the yolks visible. After that, you're going to put a pan on the stove on medium-low heat. And it is important that it's medium-low heat, especially if you have a gas stove. On an electric stove, you might be able to do this with medium. And you're going to have everything ready to go. So have your loaf of bread, your egg mixture, a clean plate to put your French toast on when you're done, and your butter as well. You also are going to want to have a knife and a spatula, so your knife to get your butter with and your spatula to flip with. So then you are going to take a little tiny thin pad of butter and put it in the pan and move that around. And while that butter is melting, you're just going to drop your bread into the mixture. If your butter immediately starts to turn dark brown or black, then you want to turn your heat down, wipe that butter out of the pan and get it out of there, because that means that your pan is way too hot and you are going to burn your French toast almost immediately. So while that butter is melting, you're going to soak that piece of bread in the egg mixture. You do want to flip it just to make sure that it gets fully soaked on both sides. And throughout this process, you are going to wash your hands a million times, because every time you dip, you need to wash your hands just so that you don't have raw egg all over your kitchen. Make sure you're also letting that excess egg drip off of the bread before you put it into the pan, so you don't end up with that club of egg falling off of there. And then I move the bread around a little bit to absorb a little bit of that excess butter. But if you're using a larger pan that you can do more than one piece in, leave a little bit for the remaining pieces. And you want to work pretty quickly with getting these other pieces in there, but repeat this process with enough pieces to fill your pan. A 12-inch pan will hold about 3 pieces of raisin bread. For regular bread, it might hold a little bit less. Raisin bread is smaller pieces. So the way to know when to flip these is you will hear the sizzling sound stop. And so that's kind of your cue to flip things. And I know that you might not we don't have the sound in the video, so you might not hear it, but you will definitely know what I'm talking about when you hear it. It's going to take a little less than a minute on each side. You're going to be tempted to turn the heat up because it seems like a lot longer than it actually is. But timing it on the video, this was 52 seconds. It is worth waiting for. If you turn your heat up, that outside is going to burn before the inside cooks. So the inside is going to be raw egg and the outside is going to be burned and not taste good at all. So please do not turn the heat up. You will set your smoke alarms off and you will have French toast that just doesn't taste right. So you're just going to continue this process until all of your bread and egg is used. This would have worked out perfectly with the amount of bread and egg mixture. This was the Thomas's brand of raisin bread, but I dropped a piece of bread. So now we are going to make our sauce. So you need a banana. You want 2 tablespoons of butter, and the banana, you want to cut that up into slices. About a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup of rum. I use Jimmy Buffett rum. 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and then a tablespoon of vanilla bean paste. And I use the Nielsen Massey that I get at Costco. So you're going to put your butter on medium on the stove. And I'm using a smaller version of the pan. I know this looks like the same pan, but it actually is a smaller version of the pan I was using before. And once that butter starts to get foamy, you're going to add your bananas into that pan and just move them around to coat them in that butter. And bananas cook very quickly, so this is going to be a pretty quick process. You're going to add your brown sugar and stir that until it is dissolved. You'll know it's dissolved when you don't really see the granules and it just kind of looks like a sauce in there. Then you are going to add the rum and boom, flambe. So you want to pull that off the heat and let the flame die down a little bit. I did have to move the pan a little bit in the air to get the flame to die down. If you do not feel comfortable with the flambe aspect of it, just pull it off the heat when you add the rum in and very slowly add it back on the heat. So then you're going to bring it back on the heat and stir it until that rum cooks down a little bit to burn off the alcohol. Then we are going to add the cream. And you're going to cook this until it just kind of bubbles at the edges a little bit. And that way you know it's heated through. And then add your vanilla, stir that in completely, and your sauce is all done. And then you're just going to put your sauce over top of your French toast. You end up with a nice big plate of French toast, and then you can serve your sauce over top. So let me know in the comments if you try this out. This tasted absolutely amazing, and it definitely will be a repeat in our house for sure. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We have also reached an exciting stage in our monetization, and we now have 2 different membership levels. Obviously, we will continue to put out our weekly videos, but we will also be offering some members-only live streams where you'll be able to ask specific questions if you have some things about family recipes or diets or anything like that that you'd like to ask. As always, we'll continue to do what we've always done on the channel. You'll always have access to send us messages or anything like that, but this is just another level of access that we are able to offer. And obviously, if you don't have the means to be a member, then please don't. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.